Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Friday, the 15th day of November, 2024. And like we do here every day, we bring you the latest stories that have something to do with what the Bible has to say our world will look like at the time of the end of the age before the second coming of Jesus Christ, and the many events that are predicted to precede it. And what we see today is another amazing testimony to the accuracy of Holy Scripture. Let's look at the headlines. First of all, according to Israeli sources, Donald Trump's team is preparing plans to topple the Iranian regime. Very, very good. Now, there's another report that says Trump pledged to cancel all Biden's weapons delays to Israel on day one. Another great story. Then Donald Trump approves the outline of a pending ceasefire deal in Lebanon, according to a report. But this next story is a real kicker here. According to Reuters, a top Khamenei aide says Iran will respect the Lebanese government's decision on Israel Hezbollah truce. This is really something special here. Then finally, the Israeli military is planning to stay in Gaza through 2025. All right. As we have documented in our book, 25 Signs We're Near the End, these are exactly the type of headlines we would expect to see if the Bible is what it claims to be, the word of the living God. And that's exactly what it is. And so you can't make this stuff up. It is fitting perfectly into the scenario Scripture gives of last days events, who will be where, what will happen. And as we see this take place every day, hopefully we get the idea that we've got supernatural things going on all the time. God is working behind the scenes, setting the stage for what has been predicted so long ago by the prophets of Scripture. And so we're very excited to report this, to see it. Now, in our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end. We document all this. This is a free download on our website called Educating Our World. Our website contains 65 different books on 11 different biblical topics, over 700 videos. Everything is free. You can download everything for free. There's no charge for anything. So please take advantage of it. Again, in the 12 books in Bible prophecy, particularly 25 Signs, we're near the end. We lay these signs out that we've just given you right now, that the headlines are catching up to what the Bible has to say. So please take advantage of it. And like we said, you can't make this stuff up. All right, let's look at the headlines. Headline number one: Trump team is preparing plans to topple the Iran regime, Israeli sources say. This is from the Israel HaYom website. Tehran recalculates planned strikes against Israel as Trump gains political momentum. Removal of current leadership would cut financial lifelines to anti-Israel proxies. Isn't this interesting? High-level Israeli sources have told Israel HaYom that the Trump circle is formulating strategic plans targeting Iran's current regime, marking a potential dramatic shift in U.S. policies towards Tehran. These sources, speaking on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter, emphasize that the Israeli-American strategic cooperation would focus specifically on challenging Iran's current leadership structure. Analysis of recent developments suggests that this emerging U.S. stance may have influenced Tehran's recalculation of its planned retaliation against Israel. Officials note that dismantling the current Iranian power structure would effectively cut off funding to Tehran-backed groups targeting Israeli interests, therefore neutralizing their operational capabilities. Now, this is exactly what the U.S. plans to do, and it's exactly the scenario we expect to see as we get closer to the end of the age. Remember, Iran will not be a player. They will not be a major player in the last days. They'll be a surrogate of Russia when there's a last days invasion, but they will not be leading anything. And right now, they're leading the attack against Israel and Hamas in the south, in Hezbollah in the north, and Lebanon, Islamic Jihad groups in both Syria and Iraq. And also, of course, you got the Houthis in Yemen. All of those groups have to be neutralized, as it were, as we move forward. And there'll be a whole new coalition of groups, anti-Israel, that will come on the scene that are predicted last days Bible prophecy, led by not Iran, but by Russia. So we expect Russia to increase and Iran to decrease, and that's exactly what we see happening. We are not surprised by any of this. But it's fascinating, isn't it, to see this take place right now. Now, what's also fascinating, Peter Hegseth, he's the prospective defense secretary, has previously advocating for giving Israel autonomy in addressing Iranian nuclear capabilities. He said this is an existential threat to them. Let them do what they need to do, he remarked in statements to U.S. media outlets. So notice, The U.S. finally has Israel's back. This is good for both Israel and the United States because Genesis 12, 1 to 3 is still in effect. God says, I'm going to bless those that bless the descendants of Abraham's descendants, and I'm going to curse those who curse his descendants. And that is still in effect after 4,000 years. And the United States in the last 4 years has been really not blessing the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what's happening now, that's going to be a big turnaround. And that's going to be good not only for Israel, but good for the United States. God's going to bless us for doing this because it's the right thing to do. So it looks like as we're moving forward, Iran may backpedal from doing any type of attack against Israel before the 20th January when Donald Trump takes over. It would not be in their interest to continue, believe me, for a variety of reasons. So interesting how all this is working out just as we expected it to. Which brings us to headline number 2 from Virtual Jerusalem. Here's a report. Trump pledged to cancel all Biden's weapons delays to Israel on day 1. A top Israeli journalist is reporting that President Trump has pledged to Israel to reverse lame duck President Joe Biden's unprecedented and costly arms embargo on his first day in office. Amit Segal posted on X that Trump's first promise to Israel: on the first day of my term, I will cancel all restrictions and delays. He says basically the transfer of armaments and combat equipment will finally will come through as agreed to with the United States and Israel. There's not going to be any more delays. This man Siegel is the chief political analyst from Israel's Channel 12. Now, unlike any past president, we've mentioned this before, what Biden did, the Biden administration, they paused the shipment of 3,500, quote, dumb, meaning unguided munitions that officials expected Israel to use in Rafah. 1,800 of these 2,000-pound bombs and 1,700 of those were 500-pound bombs. The bombs were approved by Congress in the year 2021. They had been licensed by the administration, manufactured, and ready to ship when the order came. In addition, these munitions were usually attached to the guidance kit, which converts them into smart weapons, were guided precisely to their targets. But during her failed campaign, it was reported that Kamala Harris told anti-Israel Arab groups that she would consider an arms embargo against Israel if she were elected. Well, again, this is further evidence that the Trump administration is doing what needs to be done in Israel, and we're very, very glad to see it. Which brings us to headline number 3. Trump approves an outline of pending ceasefire deal in Lebanon. This is from Ynet. Incoming president hopes agreement would be implemented before he takes office. Officials in Washington and Jerusalem await Lebanon's response to the outline of the deal. President-elect Donald Trump gave his approval to the outline of the agreement being negotiated to bring a ceasefire to the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, the Hezbollah terror groups in Lebanon. The Wall Street Journal reported today, Friday. Israeli officials told the paper that the Strategic Affairs Minister, Ron Dermer, presented the outline of the agreement to Trump in their meeting last week, and the incoming president expressed hope that the agreement would come into effect before he took office on January 20th, 2025. The U.S. presented the outline to the government of Beirut on Thursday. Officials in Washington and Jerusalem were waiting their reply, according to the Israeli officials, to come within days. And Joe Biden's envoy, Amos Hochstein, told the Lebanese that he would not arrive in Beirut. He would not arrive to Beirut if he did not believe the government there was prepared to seal the deal. So this is very, very interesting. See what's going to happen there. Now, remember, Hezbollah has basically said no to this, as Hamas says no to any type of ceasefire. But with this next story, something may change here. Get this. Headline 4, top Khamenei aide said Iran will respect the Lebanese government's decision on Israel and Hezbollah truce. This is a Reuters story. Iran will support any decision taken by the Lebanese government and Lebanese resistance in current talks on a ceasefire in fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. This is our senior advisor to the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, said. We are not looking to sabotage anything, he said. We are after a solution to the problems. He said this after meeting with Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and the Parliament Speaker Navi Berri. He was referring to the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, which says Iran will support the resistance under all circumstances, but if they choose a ceasefire, they said they won't, go against it, won't try and sabotage us. Now, this is really interesting Does this mean Iran is running scared? Well, they should be because of what's, headed for them if they continue on the path that they've said and the belligerence that they've tried to, what they have put on Israel and with their proxies and what they promised to do again. But this is not a wise move on their part if they do that, and it seems like they're backpedaling. Now, also a great story, headline number 5. This is from Zero Hedge. Israeli military planning to stay in Gaza through 2025. Now, if you recall, in 2023, when right after the attack came on October 7th, Netanyahu said we're going to be at least through 2025 in Gaza to get rid of Hamas, get rid of their army and the such like. And he had to backpedal from that because Biden administration didn't want to hear that. But now that Trump's taking over as the president of the United States, he can say that and they can say it out loud because this is what they need to do. Anyway, the Israeli military is planning to stay in Gaza through 2025 and is stepping up demolitions and the construction of more permanent military structures. This is from the left-wing paper Haaretz. They reported on Wednesday. The liberal paper, there's a bunch of stuff they said at the end of the article we're not putting because they're about as left as you can get, a bunch of whack jobs there in Israel. But anyway, they reported at least this first part of it, that Gaza's territory, a significant portion, will be under the control of the Israeli military, where the IDF has been destroying every building in sight and establishing military outposts, including the Netzarim corridor, which, as we've talked about many times before, a strip of land that basically separates northern Gaza from the rest of the strip. According to Hamas, to Haaretz, the Netzarim corridor is currently 5 to 6 kilometers wide, about 9 kilometers long, and the Israeli military is working to expand it even more. So they're separating Gaza from north to south. That's the first thing they're doing. There's also the Philadelphia corridor, the article goes on to say, which separates, again, the border from Egypt to the further south and Israel, and they need a no man's land there, a buffer zone. And that's exactly what Israel is doing, will plan to do. In these areas, virtually all the buildings have been destroyed and military outposts are going up. Haaretz previously reported that the Netzarim corridor, the Philadelphia corridor, the buffer zone account for 26% of Gazan territory. Well, that's wonderful. In other words, Israel's going to make sure that an October 7th attack will never happen again. They will destroy their weapons. They will have, again, buffer zones between north and south of Gaza, between southern Gaza and Egypt, where they can't sneak weapons across, they can't sneak money across or whatever. So this is exactly what they need to do to win this skirmish. And God bless them and thank God for doing this. So basically what we've seen today, and this is incredible, each of these 5 headlines that we just given you are precisely what we would expect to see happening based on the prediction of Scripture with respect to the last days. You literally can't make this stuff up, and we're always amazed by what we see, but we are never surprised. So again, Iran is running scared, as they should be. Their proxies are looking possibly to do a ceasefire. Israel is taking over the Hamas's territory in Gaza and making a buffer zone, because all of this has to happen before the events of the last days that are predicted in Scripture can take place. Because as we have emphasized, Scripture tells us it's when Israel feels they're at peace on their northern border, at peace with their neighbors, when this Russian invasion takes place, not when they're at war like they are now. That's why we've said there's got to be some time to elapse before all this takes place, and we're seeing the stage being set right now. All right, I'm Don Stewart. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, may the Lord richly, richly bless.